Page 2 of trig. We are going to be using SOHCAHTOA again, so I'll write them out here. A ladder KM is 8.5 meters long. It leans against a wall so that LKM, angle LKM, so this angle symbol means that the K is the vertex of the angle. Oh, I'm sorry, the K is the vertex of the angle, the middle one. So LKM would be this angle here. LKM, see? Is 30 degrees. And triangle KLM is a right angle triangle, so that must mean that this is the right angle. Find the distance KL. So this would be the hypotenuse, of course, and this would be the adjacent, and this would be the opposite. ML would be the opposite. So let's find the adjacent. The relationship we have here between adjacent and hypotenuse, of course, is cosine. So we'll put cosine of 30 degrees is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse, 8.5. Cosine of 30 degrees, if we put that in the calculator, is, I think, 0.866. Yeah, 0.866 equals the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. To find the adjacent, all we need to do is multiply 8.5 times 0.866. So we'll do 0.866 times 8.5. And the answer is 7.36. That's the adjacent, which is the distance KL. Next one, how far up the wall the ladder reaches? So the ladder KM is this here, of course. That's the ladder. How far up the wall the ladder reaches? So what we want to know is the height, ML, which is also known as O. So the opposite can be found through either tangent or sine. Just to vary a little bit, let's use tangent. Tangent of 30 degrees equals the opposite divided by the adjacent. And the adjacent, remember, is 7.36 from part A. Tangent of 30 is 0.577 equals the opposite, 577, divided by 7.36. Opposite is equal to 0.577. Opposite is equal to 0.577 times 7.36. Times 7.36. 4.25. So the ladder reaches up 4.25 meters, right? C. The instructions for use of the ladder state it should not lean against the wall at more than 55 degrees. Find the maximum height up the wall that the ladder can reach. So what it's saying here is this 30 degrees could be as much as 55 degrees. That would look kind of like this. Then how far up would it reach? So in this case, the hypotenuse is still 8.5, right? Because that's the height, the length of the ladder. So if we know the hypotenuse is 8.5 and we know this is the opposite, we want to use SO, right? SOH. So sine of 55 degrees is equal to the opposite divided by 8.5. Sine of 55, let's do that on the calculator. It's 0.819. And if I want to solve for O, I would multiply both sides by 8.5. times 8.5. 6.96. So the ladder could reach up the wall 6.96 meters. Next one. A hiker whose eye is 1.6 meters above ground stands 50 meters from the base of a vertical cliff. The angle between the line connecting her eye and the top of the cliff and a horizontal line is 58 degrees. Okay, so a hiker is 1.6 meters above the ground. She stands 50 meters from the base of a vertical cliff. The angle between the line connecting her eye and the top of the cliff and a horizontal line is 58 degrees. The angle between the line connecting her eye and the top of the cliff, that's this line I just drew, and a horizontal line is 58 degrees. So the horizontal line from her eye would be this line, not this line here. Angle 58 degrees. Okay. So the triangle we're going to look at is actually this triangle here, up here. So we got the angle 58 degrees. We know that this distance here is 50 meters, just like this one. And we want to know, we already drew the diagram. Find the height of the cliff. We want to know this whole height, which is, I'll call it red H. Red H. And then, but from the blue triangle, we're going to end up finding blue H. So let's find blue H first. We know the adjacent. And we know, it's unfortunate I called this H because actually it's the opposite. So let me call it crap. Yeah, let me call it crap. Okay, here's the cliff. Instead of calling this H, let me call it O because it's the opposite. Okay, so we know A and we'd like to know O, so that means we're going to use TOA, tangent. So the tangent of 58 degrees is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. And the adjacent is 50. And then tangent of 58 degrees, let's do that on the calculator. 1.6. So opposite is equal to 1.6 times 50, which is 80.0. So that would be the height of the blue part of the cliff. We want to know the red height, which would be the blue O plus 1.6. So that would be 81.6. I just added 1.6 to 80. Okay. Number 2. Calculate the inverse cosine of 2/3. Now this is a pretty easy, it's just a calculator problem. So you just type it in as is. Inverse, which is second, cosine. Do you see how it has cosine -1 here? So inverse cosine, and then you just put 2/3 in under inside. 48.2. Okay, and then inverse sine of 0.6. Second sine 0.6. 36.9. Okay, find the acute angle alpha if sine of alpha is 0.2. So if sine of alpha is 0.2, then the inverse sine of 0.2 is alpha, right? How do you get rid of sine? You do the inverse sine of both sides. The inverse sine cancels with the sine because you have inverse functions, they undo each other, and you're left with alpha equals inverse sine of 0.2. Inverse sine of 0.2 is 11.5. 11.5 degrees. what if the tangent of alpha is 1? Find the acute angle alpha if the tangent of alpha is 1. So we could do inverse tangent of both sides. So we have alpha equals the inverse tangent of 1. Inverse tangent of 1, we do second tangent 1. 45 degrees. Last part. Find the sizes of the two acute angles in these triangles. So in these two cases, let's see, we know two sides, and we would like to know this angle, which is angle C, and we know this angle. We'd like to know this angle, which is angle A. So let's look at angle C first. Angle C, this would be the opposite, and this would be the adjacent. So we would use TOA, right? So the tangent of angle C is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent. So 7 divided by 9.5, that's equal to 0.737. The inverse tangent of both sides gives us C equals inverse tangent of 0.737. Inverse tangent of 0.737. The answer is 36.4 degrees. What about angle A? Let's try to find angle A. Angle A, if we look at angle A, 9.5 is the opposite, and 7 is the adjacent. So angle A is kind of backwards. Angle A has 9.5 on top and 7 on the bottom. And if we want to figure out what the A value is, we just do inverse tangent of both sides. And then these cancel out. So then we have A is equal to the inverse tangent of 9.5 divided by 7. So let's type that in. Inverse tangent of 9.5 divided by 7. 53.6. Okay. Let's try this one. So we're going to find the angle M, and we're going to find the angle Q. And let's see, let's do M first. So M, this would be the hypotenuse, and this would be the adjacent. So AH, that would be Ka, would be cosine of M, is equal to 10 divided by 12.5. Inverse cosine of 10 divided by 12.5 will be the answer. So inverse cosine of 10 divided by 12.5 is 36.9 degrees. Okay, what about Q? Let's find Q a different way. Since this is a right triangle, this would be 90 degrees. This is 36.9 degrees. We could find Q by doing Q plus 36.9 degrees plus 90 degrees is equal to 180. So we could just do Q is equal to 180 minus 90 minus 36.9. So we could just do 180 minus 90, which is 90 of course, minus 36.9. The answer is 53.1. Okay, last one. In triangle HIJ, angle J is 90 degrees. Let's draw this. HIJ, angle J is 90 degrees. IJ is 18. HI is 25. There's a diagram. It says to represent in a diagram. We've done that. Find the size of angle H. So we want to know angle H. According to angle H, 18 is the opposite, and 25 is the hypotenuse. So, OH, that would be so we'd do sine of H is equal to 18 divided by 25. H is equal to the inverse sine of 18 divided by 25. See, I took the inverse sine of both sides, and then I canceled those out. Okay, so I'm going to do inverse sine of 18 divided by 25. 46.1 degrees. And that's it.